Hello, comrades. Commissar Bro here today with Dawn of War 3. That's right, the newest Warhammer 40,000 game to come out, and the sequel to Dawn of War 2, Dawn of War 1. Dawn of War 2 came out, I think, about 6 years ago now, 6 or 7 years ago. It's been a while since it first came out, and the original Dawn of War came out back in 2004. So yes, it's definitely, where was it, 2005? It was one of those years there. Needless to say, this has been a long-awaited sequel, and it's being met with very mixed reviews, to say the least. I'm just going to come out right out and say it. I like it. I think it's not that bad. I think that the reaction to it has been cultivating for months when the first gameplay trailers were released, and as such, people are just kind of venting towards the frustration they have towards the game and the direction they feel it has gone. In my personal opinion, I think this is an interesting take on the Dawn of War series, on RTS games in general. And honestly, I mean, I do have complaints, don't get me wrong. There's stuff I'm not a big fan of in the game. Like, I think the campaign's kind of boring from what I've played so far. I've done 3 missions, and the first 3 missions are really not all that exciting. If anything, they're a grind to get through just so I can see the story. But I have heard there's better missions further on in the game, so that is something as well. Now, keep in mind, this isn't a full-blown review. I'm just kind of giving my thoughts of what I've seen thus far in the game and how I feel about it. So for those of you who have no idea what Dawn of War is or have not played any of the games in the series, that's okay. If you actually play this game, it's nothing like Dawn of War 1 or Dawn of War 2. The developers themselves pretty much said, we're not trying to make Dawn of War 1, we're not trying to make Dawn of War 2, we're trying to make Dawn of War 3. We're basically making a brand new game inspired by various elements within the first 2 games. With that in mind, this game has taken an interesting approach to the RTS genre. Truly, it makes me think a lot of Battle for Middle-earth 2. How that was, combined with elements you might see in a MOBA, or like, think for example, Heroes of the Storm, kind of the anti-MOBA that is, and with RTS elements. Again, still very heavily a real-time strategy game. There's base building elements, and there's super units in it, and then you've got your regular units, which operate in a similar kind of like a paper, rock, scissors fashion. For example, heavy bolters are great anti-infantry units. Las cannons are good anti-vehicle units, and so on and so forth. And then you've got vehicles and so on. So without further ado, the couple things I want to take a look at real quick is a lot of the complaints are reared towards the maps being divided into lanes. I don't know if I entirely agree with that assumption, because looking at most of the maps, they're not really lanes. I mean, I kind of get what they mean, but I feel like that can be said for many RTSs in the past. Again, it's important to remember that MOBAs in general actually came from the RTS genre, specifically Warcraft 3, from mods. So I mean, that's one thing to remember. Now, there are elite units in the game. These are pretty much really powerful units that you can only call out with a certain number of elite points that you get generating over time throughout the game. And taking a look at some of the elite units I have here, I've got an Imperial Knight Paladin, I've got Solaria, who's also an Imperial Knight, and I've also got the Death Watch Kill Team Iron Maw here, made up of some of the elite Space Marine forces that basically hunt Xenos. That's like their whole mission. You see them fighting the Tyranids a lot. So taking a more closer look, there are 9 elite units in the game as it stands now. You've got Jonah Orion, who's a Psyker. Well, excuse me, just for the Space Marines. I'm just speaking for the Space Marines. There's 9 elite units for the Space Marines, 9 for the Orcs, and 9 for the Eldar. So you've got Jonah Orion, who's a Psyker. You've got Assault Terminators, who are melee, really powerful melee troops. You've got a Venerable Dreadnought, which is a ranged unit, kind of like a mech, for those of you unfamiliar with the Warhammer universe. You've got Terminators, which are, again, nukers, so basically they do a lot of damage from distance. And then you've got Chaplain Diomedes, who is actually kind of like a support tank type. Think like a Paladin, if you've ever played something like World of Warcraft or something like that. So there are more units we could take a look at, but because I'm going to be playing as a Space Marines, that's going to be my primary focus with this video. And because I have spent 5 minutes just talking on the menu here, let's go ahead and get the game started. And hopefully you're going to enjoy what you see. If not, totally understandable. But anyway, let's get started. And we're actually going to put it on high resources to kind of scoot the game along a bit. There we go. The match begins in 3, 2, 1. Alright, so here we are. We are in game. So starting out, you're generally going to want to build like a servitor who's a builder unit, get you some TAC Marine guys, and you want to capture points. Resource gathering in the game is as simple as you send a soldier or a troop to a resource point here. The unit will then capture that point, and from there, you can upgrade that point with additional resource production. In this particular case, we're actually going to be building, one of our buildings up here further. So that's something that's actually unique to this game, unlike Dawn of War 2, which did do away for the most part with base building, and is also different from games like Company of Heroes 1 or 2. You can actually build your buildings just about anywhere, which is a really cool feature in my opinion. Being able to actually have forward bases in this sense, like if you have the resources to do it, why not? And we need to go ahead and start moving up further to start capping more points. We need to get this stuff fast before the orcs push up and take it. This is actually an interesting map. I haven't actually done this one yet. I've mainly played 2v2s and 3v3s, so this will be my first 1v1 with the finished copy of the game. So that's going to be interesting. What I did here is these drop pods are unique to the Space Marine units. Essentially, it allows them to call in units via basically anywhere on the map that they have line of sight. So what's going to happen is the moment we start engaging some orcs, I'm going to call them down, and they're going to support our fellows. But at the same time, we're going to build some Scout Marine snipers, and we're also going to build another Doctrine Chapel here right behind the shield generator. The whole purpose of the game, when you play in the multiplayer mode, is you are fighting for control of to destroy each other's power cores, essentially. To do so, you have to blow up the shield generator first. Once you destroy the shield generator, you have to take out this massive turret. And then once you do that, you have a free shot right there at the power core. There's 4 phases of the game. The phases change every 10 minutes. Essentially, what you want to do is you want to try to do it as fast as you possibly can. Because the faster you do it, the less health like the power core has. As each phase goes up, it actually makes the power core stronger. It makes resource generation a lot faster. So it kind of benefits you to be aggressive early on and to try to take resource points from your opponent. I mean, I've played games where literally people straight up quit out of the game and just surrendered because I pushed in so fast. And here we go. We actually have the orcs coming in on us. They started moving, but then they retreated. Keep in mind, the orcs are on casual because I wanted to be able to show the mechanics of the game more so than I want to show the capabilities of the AI. One thing that's important to mention is the AI in this game, or at least in the skirmish mode, is not all that great. On casual, they do this where they won't even attack sometimes. They'll just kind of stand there. We're actually going to call in our Death Watch boys as well. Get Team Iron Maw in here to help back up these Space Marines who are caught in close combat. Yeah, look, they're led by a Space Wolf too. Dope. Fall back, boys. Get out of there. So anyway, you see here we're actually pushing up on the orcs and trying to take this point. The faster, the better. And some enemy orcs actually moved in on us. They're trying to come in through there. So let's get some heavy bolters out to actually try to counter the orc infantry that's coming at us. Open fire, boys. Shoot them, shoot them, shoot them. Yeah, get them, get them. There we go. So another building we want to build is the Arsenal. The Arsenal actually gives you unit upgrades. This game pretty much has gotten rid of technologies for the most part. So all technologies are researched through a technology-specific building. In this particular case for the Space Marines, it's the Arsenal. So that's basically what we're going to do here. We're also getting these little technologies, which are resource upgrades. It makes it where you procure resources faster through the points. Yeah, we're just going to do that. Put those dudes over there. And put that, yeah. Oh, crap. I always do that every single time. Like, I'm moving faster. I'm not like one of those StarCraft pros, just so you know. I am not like a huge micromanager as far as it goes. I love RTSs, but I've never been like super fast with them, so don't expect like any crazy plays. And don't be surprised if I forget that there are certain units in certain areas and so on and so forth, because I literally do it all the time. And we are under attack by Gorguts, a hero unit. That's not good. Fall back, boys. Except for you. You keep... No! No, no, no! Run! Run! Oh, God, he's killing us. So, basically, he caught us unawares there. And he's going to proceed to punish us for that. Run! Run! Yeah, we pretty much lost that point. That's a shame. But it happens. You got to just deal with it and react to it. In this particular case, hero units are pretty strong. So you kind of want to be smart when you engage them. For example, if we're going to go up against Gorguts here, I want to make sure that I've got backup when I do it. I also want to construct a listening post on that point there. Otherwise, the orcs will just walk right on in and take it for their own. And we're actually going to retreat our team back. We've already got both control of both these experience point generators, so we're getting more experience or elite points than we would normally be getting. I'm trying to actually call out one of my Imperial Knight Paladins so I can show that off to you guys before, you know, I decide to cut the video, because more than likely I'm not going to actually play through a full game just because then I feel like the video might be too long. So match lengths in this game can vary. Sometimes they're really short, sometimes they're really long. I just played one in a 3v3 that lasted 16 minutes. Oh, that's some orcs. That's a lot of orcs. No bueno, sir. That's all right. Let's call in our reinforcements. We also want to increase the damage of our boys. Oh, run, run, run. Call them into the turret. So the turret's going to sit there and just absolutely devastate them from a distance as they just get mowed the fuck down by it. Again, the easy AI isn't exactly winning any awards in this game, that's for sure. They're very passive. Basically, it seems like just to help players learn if they're not familiar with RTSs at all. But that actually brings up one of my complaints I've had with the game thus far. Is honestly, even the hard AI is not that challenging. Now, there's a lot of the story missions and campaign missions that are pretty challenging because they turn into waves. Like, you fight waves of enemies. And so it can be pretty hard when you're pinned down essentially and you're unable to reinforce your squads because you don't have any base buildings, or your units are so pushed up they're nowhere near base buildings and stuff like that. But in this playing against hard AI, the hardest level of AI currently available, it's just not even really a challenge. Like, it's really not. If you have even a basic idea of what you're doing, you'll pretty much destroy them, which is really disappointing because Relic has always been known for incredibly difficult AI at later stages. Like, if you play in Company Heroes and play against some of the vet AI in those games, you're probably going to have at least a little bit of trouble. So, I mean, it's just interesting that this game took a different route and decided not to do that, and instead has AI that's not even difficult at all. They're just so aggressive, and you quite often see units go charging in alone or maybe in small numbers. And truly, what makes armies effective in this game is large armies moving in large packs, just rolling through the enemy positions. And a lot of hit and run tactics. Honestly, the biggest thing I've seen with this game is resource management. It's a lot of people won't mention that I've seen so far in the reviews for the game, is that losing control of resources, especially early on, or like if you don't have enough troops to fight back, the game could be over before it really began. Just because it's like playing Age of Empires or something like that. Like, if you're sitting there playing Age of Empires and someone takes out, you build a lumber mill at the very beginning, and someone immediately comes and cuts it down, you're out 100 wood. Now, 100 wood is generally easy to replace, but like if you build a castle and someone sends 3 trebuchets and takes it out in 2 seconds, that's not as easy to replace. And the same thing kind of goes for games like Company of Heroes. Like, if you send in a squad of men and they get absolutely wiped out in the early game, that could actually be the death of you. And in this particular game, if you lose in the early game 1 or 2 squads, then it might be game over. Now, keep in mind, I am being incredibly passive in how I'm fighting. So, honestly, the orc player here is getting a lot of opportunities to just keep building troops and be aggressive. But if I was playing against real people, this wouldn't be the case, because real people take a lot more challenge, and you really got to pay attention to what you're doing if you expect to beat them. And I'm actually going to sit here and mow Gorguts down, the poor bastard. He doesn't even know. One thing I do also wish the game had is I wish it had standalone turrets. I really wish that I could build, like, even if they were just like attachments added on to your buildings or something like that. It just seems like a feature that should really be in the game, and I think would fit pretty well. It's sort of like, think how the listening posts already exist in the game. They don't have to be super overpowered. You can limit to how close they can be together and stuff like that. I just don't see why you wouldn't want to have them in the game. Like, for example, I mean, as a player, I personally would really enjoy to have turrets, because there's times where you'll be fighting isolated pockets and you need to move your army as a singular unit, and your opponent will be fighting more of a guerrilla war, like sitting there sniping out your resources and making you waste resources on constantly building, like recapping points and rebuilding. So for like example here, how Gorguts came in and wiped out this point, now I have to go back and rebuild the damn thing and put it back the way it was. So, you know, I'm surprised that, like, just having turrets rather than just listening posts is not a thing. Because the listening posts, I mean, they're effective. They're great delay units, essentially. They're great delay buildings, because they really stop the enemy, especially early on in the game. Early on in the game, listening posts can be the difference between you losing a whole point and taking the damn thing. Because if they send like a singular TAC Marine squad, or they send a regular Orc Boy squad at your listening post, they're just gonna die. So, and it's if a player who's actually paying attention is not gonna walk into that. They're gonna take it out with like heavy bolters or las cannons or a hero unit from a distance, or do something like that. I do like these little environmental things as well. You'll see that throughout the maps, where there'll be like gates or something, and if you want to open that gate and be able to access that area easy, or have multiple avenues to come around the enemy forces, you take it out. It's a further kind of point that I don't really understand what people are talking about when they keep saying lanes. They keep saying the maps are set up in lanes, even though there's generally like 4 or 5 avenues to go down. Now, they may be relatively straight, but I mean, look at this. Okay, so like looking at this map, one could argue that there's 3 lanes. There's one lane here, there's a lane here in the middle, and then there's a lane over here. Now, most strategy maps have pretty much about the same, so that's kind of where I get confused on the point people are trying to make about this type of things. And let's just go ahead and call in our Imperial Knight. That's going to help us take out these war trucks who are going to come in here and try to do work. But we're not going to let them, baby. No siree. Let's just go ahead and pierce right on through that bastard. Boom. Oh, I love it. The Imperial Knight Paladins are absolutely wonderful. Like, that's actually something I'm loving about this game is the elite units. They're kind of a... It's a unit you either hate it or you love it. And I think it kind of stands for this whole game, really. It's you either really enjoy some of the changes, or you just straight up do not like it at all. And again, I do think it was a situation of the community as a whole, when they saw what the game was going to be, did not like what it was going to be. Now, I'm not saying... Did I just lose a whole damn squad? Oh, that sucked. Sorry about that, boys. Not necessarily that that's a bad thing. I mean, if you don't like it, you don't like it, and that's fine. That's totally understandable. But I do think the reactions towards it are kind of a little over excessive, truly. As someone who's been playing the Dawn of War games, Dawn of War 1 and Dawn of War 2, both since they came out, And I'm a big fan of Company of Heroes 1 and 2. 1 more than 2. I mean, I'm right there with you guys in terms of like experience. I played the tabletop. I've got an army of Necrons, if that tells you what kind of player I am. And I own pretty much every Warhammer game on the market. And I gotta say, I think the ire towards this game is just a little bit over excessive. I totally understand if you don't like it. I get that. It's different. It's very different. I mean, this is truly, if you look at it, this is not like the other Dawn of War games. And I think that's a fair assessment to make. But at the same time, again, the developers have been saying that it's not going to be Dawn of War 1 and it's not going to be Dawn of War 2. It's going to have a little bit of elements from those two games, but it's also going to be something completely different. And I mean, just looking at the gameplay footage that has been released over the past couple of months, the past couple of weeks, I mean, I thought it looked pretty obvious what it was going to end up being like, and I guess as such, I'm not disappointed. This is about what I was expecting, and to be honest, I'm relatively excited. However, I will say the campaign is slightly disappointing. I expected more. I'm not even going to lie about that. I expected more from the campaign. I was pretty excited about that. And because Dawn of War 2 had an absolutely phenomenal campaign, and I loved the first 3 Dawn of War 1 games. The campaigns for those games were absolutely wonderful. And Soulstorm was just rehashed Dark Crusade with Battle Sisters and what was that other? What was the Dark Eldar? That's right. Forgot about them. So like, I mean, Soulstorm was okay, I guess. But truly, this game, the campaign, it could have been way better. Like, from my experience thus far, the campaign could have been better. And I actually agree with people on that one. Let's see if we can snipe him out. We did, like, no damage to Gorga. It's like a freaking shell the size of him, like, doesn't even phase the bastard. Die, you big bitch. Nice. He's not going down. Wonderful. So we're actually going to go in there and kill him. Wonderful. So, yeah. I guess that kind of brings me to my point that I've played so far of the game. You either like it or you don't like it. There doesn't really seem to be much of a middle ground. I have seen some people who are just kind of like meh about it, which is totally understandable. Most games nowadays, again, that's just kind of how it is. But I would recommend that if you're not a Dawn of War fan, like if you haven't played the Dawn of War games, I would recommend you give this game a try. Because going in biased might make it to where you don't even want to give this game a chance, which I don't think is entirely fair. I think it's worth giving it a chance. And if you have given it a chance and you still don't like it, that's perfectly acceptable and fine. You know, we all have our opinions and we all disagree on what constitutes a good game and what constitutes a bad game. And I personally don't think this is a bad game. I think there's a lot of places it could do better. Again, I think the AI could be significantly better. The AI is just, it really, no matter how you slice it, the AI is not a challenge, even on the highest difficulty setting. In the campaign, they can be frustrating, but if you're just smart and you don't go into areas you can't handle, you'll do just fine. So, let's take out this tower. Watch out for this big bastard, because I think it's going to take us down if we're not careful. Get it, get it. Oh, he's stunning our units. We're still able to shoot it from distance, so that didn't even matter. And now we just push towards the enemy's power core and we take it down. Let's get it, boys. Let's go. Something else I'm not a huge fan of is I'm questionable on some of the voice actors in the game. Like the orcs, for example. I love Gorguts' voice. I love the Shuda's voices. I like the regular, like, Slugga boys. I like their voices as well. But it's mostly just I guess from what I've heard from some of the other units, like the Gretchens, I'm not really a fan of what they went for there. I really like Dawn of War 2's Gretchens. Dawn of War 2 had some great sounding Gretchens from, I think his name was Keith Richardson. No, not Keith Richardson. Well, maybe it was. I don't remember what his name was. But his Gretchens were absolutely wonderful. And Yeah, but they got rid of a lot of kind of the heavier sounding orcs. Again, you had Brian Dobson and Paul Dobson in the first Dawn of War doing a lot of the voices in those games. So I don't know. Like, I guess it's interesting. They're going for more British voice actors. So, like, even the Space Marines, for a majority of the Space Marine characters in the game, have kind of like a haughty British tone. Which is completely different because in Dawn of War 1 and Dawn of War 2, they were kind of like a more Americanized British tone, which I'm not going to lie, I enjoy that very much so. So I kind of miss those voices, but I think you can still hear Brian or Paul Dobson as the heavy devastators in this game. So that's actually kind of a cool little neat thing for fans of those voice actors. But anyway, this has been Commissar Bro. Thanks so much for checking out this video. I hope you give this game a chance. If you end up not liking it, totally understandable. But I do think that it's worth due attention because, honestly, at this point in time, it almost seems like it's dead on arrival, which is an absolute shame because it's a lot of fun, and I don't think it should be. But again, just my opinion. Anyway, this has been CB, and I'll see you next time.